You have one that's an absolute Sherlock in scouting the dark web, and the other? Well, it comes armed with certified private investigators. How do you pick between IdentityForce and IDShield to protect yourself and the ones you love? Before we dive in, just a quick heads up. You can check out the video description to see the best way to get protected, so feel free to have a peek anytime. So here's the deal. Both IdentityForce and IDShield have been around the block. IdentityForce is part of TransUnion and has been doing this for almost 20 years, but really they've been in the arena longer than that. IDShield is from LegalShield, another old-timer in the legal services business. But let's be real, in today's world where AI is writing poems, making movies, and doing all sorts of mind-blowing stuff that would have seemed like sci-fi a couple years back, can these old-timers still keep up? Which one can hold its own today against the fresh-faced whiz kids like Aura that were born out of the threats and necessities of the world we currently live in? Because between you and me, one of the two we're talking about today has a user interface that makes my grandma's flip phone look like it's from the future. Looking at basic identity protection for your family, with IdentityForce you have full coverage and 3-bureau credit monitoring for you, your partner, and your kids. You're looking at their Top Dog Ultra Secure Plus credit plan. This is going to set you back $35.99 per month billed annually at the time of filming. Their entry-level plan, Ultra Secure, doesn't even offer credit monitoring. That's a big miss in my book because every other service I've tried, including IDShield, gives you at least 1 bureau credit monitoring on their base plan. Similarly, if you want 3 bureau credit monitoring, IDShield charges you $34.95 per month at the time of filming, giving you monitoring and Vantage scores from all 3 bureaus. And like IdentityForce, that covers you, your partner, and all the kiddos you can throw at it. Pretty similar, although IdentityForce throws in credit reports from all 3 bureaus where IDShield doesn't offer any at all. As you'll soon see, this isn't the only place where IDShield falls short and IdentityForce steps up. So should we just sign this one off with IdentityForce? The answer might have been yes if it weren't for Aura. This MVP offers everything that the Shield and the Force do and more. For starters, they throw in a beefier identity theft insurance coverage and protection for up to 5 adults and unlimited kids. All for a reasonable $37 per month at the time of filming. So the victor in this round is, drumroll please, neither IdentityForce nor IDShield unfortunately. So once you sign up for these identity theft protection services, you hand over some personal details. You know, your name, email addresses, phone numbers, social security number, even your employee ID numbers, the usual. Then they take this information and they scour the dark web and such for any signs of foul play. One of the underrated benefits of these services is the sheer drop in junk emails of random credit offers you'll receive. IdentityForce helps here by giving you the keys to cut your name from commonly used marketing databases. Aura and IdentityGuard are even better in this area, proactively keeping your inbox clutter-free with minimal fuss on your end. As for IDShield, I'm not entirely sure. They say it's part of their reputation management package, but more on that later. Both IdentityForce and IDShield also keep a keen eye on your public records. Say someone tries to pin their court case on you, or uses your identity and medical data records, or, brace yourself, the sex offender registry. Yes, this actually happens. They're on it and you get an alert. IdentityForce even goes the extra mile, alerting you if a registered sex offender has moved into your neighborhood. Both services also let you know about any payday loans or quick cash scams someone might be trying under your social security number, and they'll flag any suspicious USPS mail redirections. When it comes to monitoring your personal info on the World Wide Web, both are strong contenders, though IdentityForce pulls ahead with a straightforward email opt-out service. I also put their dark web monitoring through its paces, but before we dive into that, let's talk about another key feature, credit monitoring. Both of these services have your back when it comes to credit score tracking, credit monitoring, and reports from all 3 bureaus in the case of IdentityForce. That is, if you're on their top tier plans. Plus, they throw in a monthly credit score tracker. IdentityForce goes the extra mile, providing a credit score simulator so you can see how your actions, like taking out a new loan or closing a credit card, could affect your credit score. They also help with credit freeze and fraud alert if you spot something fishy on your credit report. But remember what I said at the start of this video? On their basic plans, IDShield only offers monitoring from a single bureau, and IdentityForce? Zero, zilch, zip. They don't offer credit monitoring at all. If you want 3 bureau credit monitoring across plans, you might want to look elsewhere. Aura, for example, has you covered there. Both IdentityForce and IDShield offer transaction monitoring. This means you can add your financial accounts and set limits. If a transaction goes over that limit, you'll get a heads up. Now, I can almost hear you asking, Zach, my bank or finance app already does this, so why do I need my identity theft protection service to do the same thing? And to that, my friends, I say, you're spot on. They do, so why would you want your identity theft protection service to double up on this job? I guess it's like having 2 alarm clocks. One wakes you up and the other also wakes you up. Maybe it's helpful, or maybe it's just really annoying at 6 a.m. Speaking of not so necessary features, both IdentityForce and IDShield come with VPNs, password managers, and social media monitoring. Now don't get me wrong, these things are super important, But I gotta be honest with you, I'd rather stick with the dedicated services for these. They just do it better. But I have to give a shout out to a unique bonus feature that piqued my interest: IDShield's reputation management system that I mentioned earlier. Now, it sounds like they're throwing a whole PR team at you, but in reality, it's just a fancy name for services like social media monitoring and public web monitoring, stuff that IdentityForce also does. Props to IDShield for the snazzy marketing though, if only their product design matched up. Seriously, if they could just spruce up their interface, I'd be recommending IDShield left and right. Their website design could use a makeover too. And did I mention it's as slow as a tortoise with a hangover? This whole product design issue really grinds my gears when we start exploring the dark web monitoring side of things. So diving into the dark web monitoring with these services is pretty straightforward. You hand over your data, they go hunting for it on the dark web, and they spill the beans on what they find there. Okay, confession time. I get a bit of a thrill from dark web monitoring. It's like being a tech whiz without the hours of coding. Don't judge me. To keep things fair and square, I fed the same data to both services. And what do we have? IdentityForce dug up 20 dark web alerts for me, with 10 of them being unique. They came from places like Dropbox, Canva, Adobe, and MySpace. Also, I found a combo of one of my Gmails and my phone number, which is a bit concerning, and my old Gmail account username and password even made a guest appearance. That old password was leading to all kinds of shenanigans, so at least I've solved that mystery now. The rest of the non-unique dark web alerts seem to be from login compilations posted on the dark web. Apparently, identity thieves are super organized and cooperative. Who knew? Now, let's turn to IDShield. How many dark web alerts did it find? 17. What were they? Well, your guess is as good as mine. I know that when I first signed up, I had 17 alerts because I jotted that down for future reference. And I know I've received some alerts since then. But here's the kicker. Once you've cleared your alerts on IDShield, there's no time travel option to go back and check them out. Remember that cringeworthy product design I mentioned earlier? Yeah, it bites. So I can't give you the breakdown on how many of these alerts were unique or part of breach compilations, or even what IDShield found. With no competition in sight, IdentityForce clutches the win here. In fact, it's the service that unearthed the most dark web alerts for me. Aura and IdentityGuard were close runner-ups with 18 hits each. Just remember, no dark web monitoring is foolproof. For example, there's a lack of complete overlap between my IdentityForce hits and Aura hits. They're each uncovering different things. So you've got all these monitoring and alert systems in place, but then disaster strikes. Theft or fraud happens. What happens next? How does your identity theft protection service come to your rescue in this incredibly stressful situation? Well, I'm glad to report that both IdentityForce and IDShield have top-notch customer support. IDShield's team ticked all the right boxes: knowledgeable, efficient, and friendly. IdentityForce brought their A game with quick response times, professional and helpful agents, and a clear understanding of their product. Both left me impressed, to be honest. Oh, and did I drop the bombshell that IDShield provides a dedicated, licensed private investigator in the event of identity theft? Yep, you heard that right, or at least that's what they claim. You see, IDShield's marketing team has quite the knack for dressing up their features in a way that makes them seem fancier than they actually are. Remember a little chat about reputation management? But the real question is, how can they provide financial support when the chips are down? IdentityForce comes through with a nice $1 million on identity theft insurance. No strings attached. This covers out-of-pocket expenses, lost wages, and compensation for stolen funds. It's pretty much the norm with most services I've tried. IDShield, however, gets creative again with their fancy wording. They offer a $1 million reimbursement for costs that couldn't be recovered. What does that mean? Why not just call it insurance? So make sure you read that fine print if you're leaning towards IDShield. Either way, $1 million in coverage for the entire family seems to be the baseline these days. Only two services are willing to up the ante. One is Norton's LifeLock, throwing a staggering $3 million coverage per adult into the ring. Aside from the fact that when you do the math, their top-tier Advantage plan maxes out at $5,250,000, the only other snag is that they're clearly overcompensating for some shortcomings. I wouldn't recommend LifeLock over IdentityForce or IDShield, even to my nemesis. I'll just leave it at that. The second service offering more coverage is Aura, providing $1 million in coverage per adult. So for a family, that could be up to a hefty $5 million. Plus, their features and services aren't a complete train wreck. So there's that. So who wins this showdown? Without a doubt, it's IdentityForce. IDShield doesn't quite measure up. If IDShield can drag its product design kicking and screaming into the modern age, it might just have a shot. But until then, IdentityForce is king. Even kings, though, have to bow down to someone. Someone like Aura. Aura not only outstrips IdentityForce in terms of essential features and insurance coverage, but it's also easier on the wallet at $12 per month for individuals when billed annually at the time of filming, and $37 per month for families of up to 5 adults. And that's even before you apply my discounts. So don't forget to check out the links in the video description for my latest deals and recommendations. I'll make sure to keep those updated. You can get the full scoop on Aura in my comprehensive review right here on this channel, and I've got plenty more reviews waiting in the links for you guys. See you next time. Shields up, sleuth out.